Right. Good evening, everyone. It is Wednesday, July 9th, 2025, 6:36. I'd like to call to order this meeting of the City of South Pasadena Public Works Infrastructure Commission. Would you please call roll?
Yeah, for tonight's meeting, Commissioner Hammond and Commissioner Sharma let me know that they will be excused tonight. Um, Commissioner Dunlap,
Here.
Commissioner Mailing, Commissioner Kerwin,
Here.
Commissioner Hernandez,
Present.
Commissioner Brunel,
Here.
Chair Abelson.
Here.
Sorry, I meant to say Vice Chair Brunel. Okay, we have a quorum.
Thank you very much, Philip. I think next up we have the Pledge of Allegiance. Commissioner Kerwin, would you please lead us?
Stand if you can, and your right hand on your heart. Ready? Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. All right, first item on the agenda is public comment. Do we have anyone in the audience who wishes to comment on something not on tonight's agenda? Do we have anyone on Zoom?
There are none at this time.
Okay, so we have no public comment virtually or in the chamber here, so I will go ahead and close public comment. Next up is item 2, update to the street improvement program and SB1 list. Looks like Michael's going to be presenting on that one. Good evening.
Good evening, commissioners. Are we able to get the presentation up on the screen, Philip? Thank you. So we just wanted to talk about how SB1 works tonight, as well as an update on our slurry project and a discussion about the fiscal year 1920 street improvement project that we awarded on June 18th at City Council. So SB1 is a Senate bill passed by the state of California that allows cities to receive grant funding every year through gas tax as long as we meet an MOE, which is a maintenance of effort. It's essentially if the state sees that you are spending your own discretionary funds, which for us is Fund 104, to maintain your own roadway network, they will assist you with some additional funding. In our case, our maintenance of effort is approximately $1.4 million per year. And if we meet that maintenance of effort, South Pasadena receives approximately $700,000 a year. So in fiscal year 25-26, we're slated to receive $704,838. Fiscal year 24-25, $698,356. And in fiscal year 23-24, we reach $654,068. It varies slightly between fiscal years. Providing an update on our slurry seal project. So we completed the slurry sealing of about 5 miles of our city's roadway network. That was the first project we did with our zone approach. It applied slurry seal to streets that it was appropriate within the purple, orange, and pink zones. In the picture you see there, they're applying crack seal and weed abatement in the cracks on these streets. The person in the front is removing the weeds, and then the people in the back are applying crack seal to the cracks prior to the slurry seal operation. The project also included removal and replacement of curb and gutter where it was damaged and was going to affect the flow line of the road and wouldn't have adhered, or the lip of the curb and gutter was going to conflict with the slurry seal where the roadway meets the lip of the gutter. You see some photos of replaced curb and gutter. And although most of the streets that we had allocated funds for slurry seal were generally in good condition, you want to be applying slurry seal to the streets that have good pavement condition index values. We still had some areas that required these dig outs. So in the photos you see, they have removed a portion of the asphalt, and on the photo on the right, they've replaced it prior to slurry sealing on top of it so that the issues don't just come through the slurry seals back up to the surface. This is another portion that we had localized removal and replacement. It was approximately 9,000 square feet of dig outs that we did within this 5-mile roadway network. After crack sealing is done and the dig outs were done and concrete was completed, that's when our contractor started to do the slurry seal operation. Involved a 10-day notification and a 3-day notification to residents that were affected because the street was going to be closed for the day. But you can see the operations done fairly quickly, and our contractors and staff worked to schedule these streets around the trash collection and street sweeping schedules that we have in the city. You can see these. This is the product after the slurry seal has been applied. The road is still closed until the material cures, after which the road is opened and vehicles can re-enter. So typically, they're starting in the morning. By 2 or 3 o'clock, they're done, and then by 5 or 5:30, they're opening up the road. So as mentioned, this was about 5 miles of the city's roadway network in the purple, orange, and pink zones. We do have a follow-up project that we're looking to bring to award next summer to do the remaining streets in the city that we can also slurry seal. This is to preserve their pavement condition index for the time being, to allow us to spend money on the streets that have to be resurfaced or reconstructed, and preserving these streets for longer. And that'll take care of the remaining zones in the city. That's the blue, red, yellow, and green. Trying to remember the colors. This week, they're finishing up the thermoplastic striping. They're putting new thermoplastic stop bars, stop legends. We're removing and replacing stop signs, the blue reflective pavement markers for fire hydrants, locating fire hydrants, and we're painting the water valves in the street blue as well. So that work should be completed by, if not by end of this week, end of next week. So as mentioned, on June 18th, we awarded our fiscal year 1920 street improvement project. It had about about $7.5 million. The streets, that project includes asphalt improvements, concrete improvements, water line removal and replacement, street light upgrades, and some locations we have sewer issues as well. So we're going to be including some sewer repairs. That list of streets that you see are where the work is to be done. On Arroyo Verde specifically, I want to mention that we know that on Monterey Road, there was a water line break that caused the asphalt to submerge a bit. So we were able to extend the limits of the pavement on Arroyo Verde to include Monterey Road. So that will be remedied with this project. And they'll obviously replace the green pavement and the stop bars and the new striping as well with that work. So the project was advertised on Planet Bids. That's our online portal for advertising projects. Helps us notify as many contractors as we can and allows contractors to submit their bids electronically. And then we opened the bids on June 9th. These were the bids that we received. So our engineer's estimate was $7.6 million, and you can see between the first and the fourth bidder, we're right around plus minus 10% of our engineer's estimate. And of course, you'll notice bidders 5, 6, and 7 that are just way above our engineer's estimate. We spoke with Gentry Brothers. They're excited to start the project. They've done work in the city prior, and we're confident in their work, and their unit prices are competitive. So with Gentry Brothers being awarded the project for $6,885,400 and a contingency of approximately 10%, the contract will be for a not to exceed amount of $7,589,040. To break down how much money from the different funding sources will be used to pay for that project, funds 104, 233, 104 being our general fund, 233 and 236 being Measure M and Measure R, and 237 being that SB1 funding that we get. We'll be using $3,677,000. That's what we can. Those funds can be used for asphalt improvements, concrete improvements, street light improvements, and striping. For the water line replacement and water service laterals, water mains, we have our water enterprise fund. That's Fund 500, and as you can see, about $3.9 million of the project is budgeted to use Fund 500. And like I mentioned, we have just 1 point repair in a sewer that is from our send judgment that we're going to repair with this project while we're digging up the road. And that's about $25,000. That uses Fund 210, which is our sewer enterprise fund. So our next step is to enter into a contract with the Gentry Brothers. They have to submit their bonds and they have to sign our standard template of our contract. That gets routed internally for the city to enter into a contract with them. We'll review submittals. We'll have a pre-construction meeting. There's some coordination with Metro. So we're paving Arroyo Verde, which, as you know, has a Metro line going through it. So there is some coordination effort between us and Metro prior to the start of this project. And we plan on having outreach meetings in mid-August, just to talk with the residents who live within the project limits, explain to them what this work is, what they can expect, who they can contact if they have questions, where they can go online if they want to read more about the project or see any updates on the project. And we're also thinking about thinking of ways to collect emails from those residents so that if we ever wanted to push an update to them on a weekly basis, we can have a list of emails of people who live within that project limit to keep the residents informed about the project. With all these steps, we're anticipating construction to start mid to late September. And it's a 150 working day project, which with 20 working days a month, that puts us at about 7 to 8 months. And obviously the construction is staged. The water line improvements will be the first order of, operations. And then at the end, they'll be doing the paving. And that puts us at a project completion of about April to May of 2026. And by then we'll have other street improvement projects that we'll have designed and awarded and have slated to start afterwards. That's our update right now. And I can give a quick update. We have the Indiana project, Indiana Avenue and ancillary streets. That project was awarded for design in March of last year. We have started the design of that. We have our Orange Zone reconstruction project we're receiving proposals for to start the design of that project as well. And then, as you know, of course, we have the Fremont Huntington project. That project, we released the request for proposals today to start to get proposals for a design consultant to come on board. And of course, the Fair Oaks ITS project has been in design and is continuing forward. But those are probably the biggest projects we have in the cities right now. But if I'm welcome to answer any questions if you have any.
All right. Okay, thank you, Michael.
Sure.
Appreciate it. Why don't we see if there are questions from the members of the commission, and then we'll see if it's public comment. I'll just go right to left this time. Pam, do you have any?
Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Chair Brunel.
No, that was helpful. Just one quick question. How does the city prioritize the streets that go into the SB1 funding program? Like, what process do you use for that?
So we need to prepare a report and publish that on our websites by resolution. The city will adopt which streets they plan on spending SB1 money on. And then we'll report, I believe it's CalSmart or CalSheets, the document that we report what we spent money and, to get to show that we met our resolution and our MOE with using our discretionary funds. Thank you.
Anything else? You don't have to have it. I just want to make sure.
I mean, I'm more curious, like, how does the city determine which streets are going to be going into the SB1 program? Like, I understand you have to do the reporting and put that into like the.
Oh, you mean how we,
like,
your question is how we're determining which streets to use SB1 money for?
exactly. Yeah. Like, how do you determine like these list of streets, like in the FY 1920 program that you've presented on? Like, how are those decided upon?
Well, we know that we have grant money that we're getting every year, and we'll use it to supplement what we use our, to supplement our general fund. That's essentially the strategy that we've been using. So, if we know we're going to be spending $2 million, let's say $2 million for sake of conversation, on items that are not eligible for water or sewer, so we have to use either general fund or Measure M, Measure R. We might use 1.4 million from our general fund because that's our MOE, and then supplement the, remaining amount, the 600,000, so it doesn't lapse. But not that it lapses, but, we can use it to supplement our general fund. Because that is a limited budget. We don't have
Thank you. Commissioner Kerwin, any?
Yeah, I think I'll follow on Vice Chair Brunel's. I think what she's trying to get at is probably the same thing I'm wondering is, again, how are you choosing the segments that you're actually working on? I mean, this is a helpful report for what you have already awarded or in the process of awarding, but for us to be helpful or for us to have any input on this, we'd want to know what you have in mind for the next cycle of this. I guess I'd want to know
Sure.
what you guys think are the highest priorities for the next round of this funding.
Sure. I mean, this is funding we're receiving every year as we meet this MOE. So we'll likely be able to use some of this SB1 money to supplement our general fund expenditures for, like I mentioned, the Indiana Avenue project or the Orange Zone reconstruction project. We know which streets we're designing. Maybe I'm misunderstanding the question. We know which streets we're designing. We know when they're going to be in construction. So we're able to anticipate, we see how much SB1 money we have, we see how much general fund money we have, and if we need to increase our SB1 expenditures to be able to meet the costs of paving these roads, then we'll supplement our general fund expenditure with SB1 money.
Is it the zones? Are the zones
Well-
what's driving the? This is before the zones.
These projects came before the zones, but
Correct. But in the future.
And yes, yeah, if you could
Moving
elaborate on
forward,
that,
they'll
too,
be
that
with
was
the
kind of
zone.
the second question I
Okay.
had was, this is FY 1920 funds. If you could talk about the fiscal year and then if you're getting about 700,000 per year, but this is a $7.5
$5 million.
project here. How
Right.
reconcile the fiscal year and the
May-
funding?
As I understand it, of course, needs to be. We're playing catch up. So this design was from 1920 fiscal year that was designed back then, but never constructed. So the way they determined these streets is what was determined then, but we've started a new process where we're using a zone approach that, we brought to council approved so that we are proactively looking at streets in the zones and addressing them, design and construct moving forward. But for this particular awarded project was predetermined and was in design in 2019, 2020.
Right.
That
If I-
answers the
If I
question.
can add to that, the design for this 1920 project, council awarded the design contract in August of 2020.
Yep.
Okay. So between August and 2020 and now was when the design took place. And that's why it's called a fiscal year 1920 project. We're no longer naming our projects fiscal year 1920 because there is no 2021 fiscal year project. From now on, it'll be either a zone project, like the Orange Zone reconstruction project, or if it's a specific project like the Indiana Avenue project. And that was done strategically because to do that entire zone and you wouldn't be able to navigate through it. So we wanted to at least handle one of the corridors. So when we do the rest of the region, that's the yellow zone, people can still navigate through that corridor or that zone at least.
We could go and look back to see how it was determined in the past, if it helps the commissioner to answer the question with regards to the 2019, 2020 design, but we've
Yeah, I'm not
moved on for a
concerned about
different
that.
approach.
Looking back. Yeah,
Correct.
I'm looking forward for the next. Remind me, in the zones though, it's not covering every street in that zone. Is it itemized which
Yeah.
segments so in the orange zone that's coming up, the
Sure.
specific
So
portions of those?
in the orange zone, we're going to be paving every street that requires either grind and overlay or full reconstruction. So then that's going to be a big project. I mean, $25 million project. Once that's done, orange zone has either been slurried if the street needed to be slurried, that got completed now. And the ones that it wasn't appropriate to be slurried will have been grind and overlaid or reconstructed.
I'm sorry, are you saying it's a $25 million project and it's going to be done next fiscal year?
It'll likely go into construction in next fiscal year. We're getting the design consultant on board now. They'll spend the next year and a half designing it. It'll go into construction next fiscal
So
year.
I think this is important though, where I'd like to have the commission be able to give input on any of that design, when the design is underway.
Sure,
I mean,
and it
there's
hasn't
portions
started
where
yet.
there-
Absolutely. We already.
Bulb outs that should be implemented or are there changes to the the parking or bike lanes or anything, in those that
Sure.
could happen at that same time as part of that design.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. We have that in mind as well. For example, the Indiana project or even this Mission project, as they start getting into design, we're at the 30 or 50% mark. We plan on bringing that back to the commission for you to see it. The orange zone hasn't gone into design yet,
Okay,
and the Indiana Avenue project has just started design. We haven't received 30% or 60% yet. We can
Okay.
definitely bring that to the commission to show you
great.
once
thank
we
you.
get to those stages.
Sorry, one last question to that same end, I guess, are there any opportunities within this current, what is being awarded here, for any striping of bike lanes or striping of curb bulb outs, any other?
These streets are mostly, or they're all residential streets.
Yeah,
So we wouldn't be putting bulb outs on just the residential streets. I mean, if you look, it's like Maple, Mill Road is a cul-de-sac street off of
Right.
Garfield.
Yeah,
Uh,
fine.
I know in many cases they're still beneficial if it's near a school, near a library, near, any other, a park, public amenities that
yeah,
it's still, even if it's a residential street, to have that striping is beneficial. Mhm.
Milan between Oak and Edgewood. You're right.
Yes.
There's that one. There'll be crosswalks there, the ladder crosswalk, but
Okay,
to your point, for the orange zone reconstruction, Oak Street does fall in that zone. So when we get into that point, we can bring that to the commission for you guys to discuss bulb outs. We know specifically Oak and Marengo, and that's near school, and a lot of kids are crossing there. So we'll have some opportunities there,
okay,
or even some portions of Marengo. I think Marengo and Laurel and Marengo and Spruce are also in the orange zone, and they're planned to be worked on.
okay.
So
Thank you.
those opportunities will come, and we'll present those designs to you at the 30%, 60% mark.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Commissioner Kerwin. Commissioner Dunlap.
Sure. I guess I have one point kind of piggybacking, and then maybe two questions and one experience. So I guess piggybacking, probably the orange zone is too far along for us to provide substantial input into the scope. But I think I understand the zone approaches. We should be able to look ahead and know what's going to be constructed in 2030, in 2031, or 2028. And those are the streets we should be looking at now. Maybe not next year that's in design, but the ones 2 years or 3 years, and seeing what opportunities there are to fix any problems that are part of those future zones. You mentioned like that not every street is in a zone will be touched, right? Like you're gonna look at all the streets in a zone, but that doesn't mean that every street is gonna get slurry sealed or reconstructed or
If the street's in great condition, then you're absolutely right.
right.
But that's very far and few in
I
between.
wonder, and maybe I know nothing is easy as it sounds, but if you're bringing out a thermoplastic truck to do striping, is it possible to look at striping, on every street? And, and is there a benefit to that? Maybe a street that the asphalt's in good condition, but you can refresh the crosswalks and refresh the stop bars. Maybe at least like think about that when you're thinking about the zone. So maybe your street's in good condition, but if we're gonna haul that thermoplastic equipment out, like let's at least refresh all the striping in the zone every 7 years, as well as some of our major streets, they're not get it's very rare that they see a project here. Every 20 years, every 30 years, we do a project on a major street. But we need to like refresh that striping. Those streets take a lot of damage. They take a
Absolutely.
lot of traffic. And so when we're in these zones, not just being so focused on like we're mobilizing all this equipment for the zone, but really take advantage of, hey, maybe there's some crosswalks in Huntington or Fair Oaks or whatever that also need to be refreshed while we have someone doing bring out a thermoplastic truck to do a
Yeah,
stop bar on my line.
We're working right now to put on some on-call contracts for various tasks that we do in the city. So we're sewer repair, striping is one of them. We're very familiar that there are streets that the striping has faded. So we're anticipating that with this on-call striping contractor, it'll be as simple as just, asking them give us a price to come out and do, refresh the striping around the school
Great.
along this long stretch of road that the striping
Yeah.
has faded over the years. So we wouldn't even have to necessarily wait to award one of these big
Okay.
projects. We would have something
Yeah.
on call that we can call and do that.
Great. And I saw that the city you just did, you refreshed the crosswalk at Fair Oaks and Spruce recently, and it really stands out. You also doubled up the pedestrian sign. So when you come around the turn, that crosswalk stands out a little bit more. It's not perfect, but it's better than it was,
Yeah.
I'd say, a month ago. So
Yeah.
yeah, if you're going to mobilize equipment, using that as an opportunity to refresh the striping in the area.
Yeah, no, that's a
Um,
great point. Thank you.
And then I guess I know that our maintenance of effort is pretty high in the city, right, compared to other jurisdictions. And I think I understand that that's because whatever fiscal years they use, we invested a lot from our general funds into resurfacing, and that's why we're having to spend 1 point something million to only get a meager 700,000. Doesn't sound like you can adjust that, right? But what are there other I think it has to be unrestricted funds. Are there other funding that could be used to satisfy that requirement besides general funds, since that's
101 and 104. 101 is just general fund.
Uh-huh.
104 is general fund tied to streets.
okay? But it couldn't be like the water, like your
You
water
wouldn't-
funding.
Yeah, no, that would be an
that you're-
enterprise fund.
Okay, never mind
Yeah.
then.
We have to
Um,
be very specific with what we use water fund or sewer fund.
Right.
for.
So that wouldn't satisfy the maintenance
No,
of
or
effort.
even like
Great.
Measure M, Measure R. We
Okay.
can't use those to satisfy our MOE.
And then lastly, kind of an experience. I was lucky to have my street slurry sealed. It was a total surprise. Yeah, I bought a lottery ticket, but I live on a corner and I got the notice, but it didn't tell me which street was going to be resurfaced. It just said your
Oh.
street was going to be resurfaced. Don't park there. But I didn't know like
Okay.
which one.
I can see
What-
that being an
you know.
issue. Yeah,
So if you could just have your contractor add the street name to it, that'd be great.
sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, great point. Thank you for that. Because we just had one letter prepared saying, your street will be resurfaced, and they distributed that to hundreds and hundreds of homes. So just moving forward, we'll obviously have them make it street specific. But hopefully you did see the no parking signs on the street that was being slurred.
I
Okay.
did. That eventually cleared up, but at first I got it and it didn't have the street
Yeah,
name.
I see.
Thank you.
Thank you for that.
Thank you, Commissioner Dunlap. Few questions on the slurry project, and then approximately how long, and maybe it varies street to street, what's the additional life a street gets as a result of being slurried? Is there a range?
Typically, they say 7 to 10 years.
Okay, well, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
You mentioned that as part of the slurry work, you replace stop signs.
They're
What-
doing that now, yes.
What is that, because most of them are faded, or what is the reason for doing that?
Faded, poor location, on old steel rusted poles. So the new standard is the 2-inch galvanized pole with a brand new reflectivity sign. So you've gone into the area, you've slurry sealed, you're putting new striping. It doesn't cost a whole lot to refresh your signs and put them on new signs and make sure you're putting them at the right locations.
Okay, no, it makes perfect sense.
Mhm.
Is the slurry work complete for this cycle?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, they've completed all the slurry operations. All that's remaining is thermoplastic and striping work.
okay. And is that overseen in-house, that project, or do we have a separate vendor that provides construction management for that kind of thing? Or do we just,
So we can do that in-house with the inspection. Staff put together the specifications for the project and advertised it and awarded it. Our intention was to do the inspection in-house. However, we're currently trying to bring more staff into our group. So we used a construction management and inspection team.
okay. I just wanted to make sure someone's going out and inspecting the
yeah.
work and making sure it's to spec and the quality is correct and,
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. The quantities are correct. We're paying for the right amount of work that was done. If anything's not cleaned up at the end of the workday, they take photos, they document all of that.
okay.
So no, absolutely we do.
Okay, great. Question for you about the 2019-2020 fiscal year project. So you answered my question. I was going to ask you what the difference is between the 6.9 and the 7.6, and that's the 10%.
Contingency.
Okay.
Mhm.
The project includes a whole host of different items, right? Street, I think you mentioned lighting, sewer, water. So is the 7.6, is that for all of that?
Yes.
And then Gentry subs out the different trades, or how does that work?
I
Or do
think
they have the capacity to do all
they
that?
can. They are subbing out some portion of it. If my memory serves correct, they subbed out the sewer improvements and the striping, but they're going to be doing the asphalt work and the water line improvements, and that's a significant and the concrete work. That's a significant amount of the project. Typically, you want your prime contractor, the one who's awarded the contract, to be doing 51% of the work or more.
Okay. But the 7.6 or 6.9 or whatever it ends up being in between,
Mhm.
that's going to them, that's for everything.
That
Or
goes to
they
them
should-
and their subs. We
Okay.
pay Gentry as the prime. They're responsible for paying their
Okay.
subcontractors.
So there isn't
If-
some other item to some other vendor, for example, for the street lighting
No.
or for the water line work, or that's everything. Okay.
Yes, yeah, that max not to exceed 7.6 million encompasses all the work that will
Everything.
be done, the water, the asphalt, the sewer, the concrete.
Okay, great. Question for you about, so the project that was the slurry project that was just complete, was that 2025?
Yeah.
Or how? Okay.
Fiscal year 24-25.
So I was looking at the map that you gave us as part of last month's packet. It's page 22 of the packet from last month. It says the 2025 through 2026 maintenance project. That's slurry. Is
Yes.
that okay? Same type of work, same scope as what was just done, different streets.
The other zones, the remaining zones.
Okay. What stage is this in, if any?
That project would go into construction next summer. You typically want to do slurry sealing in the summer months.
Okay.
You need the heat for the material to cure, as well as you don't want to be doing all this coordination and you get a rainy day and now the notification is, you have to re-notify everyone again. Typically, slurry seal projects are done in summer months. So we'll be using, to get more granular, we'll be using fiscal year 25-26 funding that we have and combining a fiscal year 26-27 funding that we will receive and doing one larger project in that summer month using both of those fiscal years at the same time.
Okay. So like next June, next July, something like that.
Exactly.
And these streets that are marked on this map, are they set, no pun intended, are they set in stone? Or is there
No,
an ability
they're not
to-
set in stone, but those are the streets that per our pavement management plan, we've identified as being appropriate to slurry seal.
Okay, so I would just,
And mind you, if I may add, before we put the specs together, we will walk all of those streets
Okay.
one more time, take a look. We want to double check. The pavement management plan is a tool to assist staff. It's not a set in stone guide,
okay,
right? So we'll go to each of those streets, assess it, double check that the pavement management plan is correct. 'Cause maybe there could be an error.
okay. So,
Sure.
because and I don't need to identify it, but there's at least one street on here that makes no sense to me.
Okay.
So, I don't know what the best way is to have that conversation, whether
Sure.
you bring it to us at another meeting, or that's just something offline that we talk about, but I just wanted to make sure there was an opportunity for us to provide some input.
Sure.
I know,
I imagine that project will be able to begin working on it in January or February to start walking all these streets and looking at them, putting the bids package together. And before we advertise it, we can bring it to you, tell you exactly what streets we're planning to advertise the slurry seal,
okay.
unless there's a better way that you.
So yeah, I would say, and again, the goal is not to micromanage, but to be as efficient and successful as we can be. And
Mhm.
whenever you start considering those streets, if you can reach out to us,
Sure.
me, whatever, because I would rather us have an ability to provide input early on.
Sure.
And you can take it or leave it, but at least you have it.
Sure. No.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I appreciate that.
Mhm.
El Centro.
Okay.
Yeah, it was repaved not that long ago. It's in
Mhm.
incredibly good shape.
Mhm,
And when you compare it to some of the streets you just showed us,
mhm,
there's a big disparity, and there might be other streets around there that might be better candidates.
sure,
So just something to think about.
sure,
But
okay.
nothing against El Centro. It's a, no.
No, I know El Centro's in is in good shape.
Yeah,
That's a comment we received a lot actually after this project. You paved the street that was in good shape, and my response was, well, that's kind of the idea. You don't want
Right.
it to get into worse shape. You want to do the slurry seal while they're still in generally good condition to maintain
100%.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. Great, thank you. If no other questions, I just thought I'd see if there was any public comment on this item. Either live or on Zoom. Do we have anybody who wishes to speak? No.
There are none at this time.
All right, okay, I'll close public comment. Councilmember Ferguson.
So a couple of things, kind of to Commissioner Brunel's point about SB1 and the applicability and eligibility. I guess my question is, are all streets in the city eligible to get funding via SB1, or is there some designation that determines whether or not a city street is eligible for SB1 funds?
You can use SB1 funds on any street.
Okay.
The only requirement is that we're by resolution, we say what streets we're going to be using the
Okay.
funding for.
Yeah, okay, so it's just a matter of what is defined within the resolution, but any
Yeah.
street. Okay,
Exactly.
thank you for clarifying that for me. And then on the funding slide, and I think you might have gone over this already, but we're looking at a 2019-2020 project. Those funds, we said the council approved those funds back in 2020, it sounded like. Have they just been passed forward?
You're referring to the slide that breaks down the 3.6 million, 3.8 million?
Yeah, you had it broke down like I think it's like $7 million total, and then
Right.
you had like where it was coming from. And my question was that the part of it that's coming out of the city funds,
Mhm.
if when it was approved back in 2020, it sounds like
2020.
was it budgeted at that time, and then those monies just got passed forward, and
No.
so okay,
So in 2020, just the design contract was approved for the engineering consultant firm to start doing the design. And then as we have estimates along the way and we see we're about to get into construction in a prior fiscal year, we'll adopt this funding we'll need for that project into that fiscal year. So for example, this upcoming fiscal year, 25-26, we added funds because we knew we were going to spend water enterprise funds. So we added an ask to adopt using, I think it was $4.5 million to our CIP project for
okay,
this project. We didn't know exactly the numbers that we would get,
yeah.
but we knew approximately where we would be.
Okay, yeah, I guess just what I want to be clear on is kind of like as we're kind of like anticipating and budgeting this, that if the work isn't getting done within the year that it was intended, we know it's still coming. So we have to provide something. I'm not sure to what level we're passing that forward or keeping that.
Right, absolutely. So, for example, this fiscal year, the 25-26, whatever was adopted for either the Indiana Avenue or the Orange Zone, that's for design work. So we know we're going to be awarding that design work contract. So we'll have the money in this upcoming fiscal year to award that work and get it started. But the construction we know is not going to be in 25-26. So we'll show that as a projected 26-27 or 27-28 to see what's coming in the coming years.
Yeah.
And then as we get closer or more complete with the design, we know, we're definitely going to need this money for construction. Then when we're putting our mid-year budget or even, closing our books for 25-26 next year, we'll definitely be sure to emphasize that, we need this money to go into construction.
Okay, great,
Mhm.
great. And then to Commissioner Kerwin's point about the design elements of the streets that are being done, and this is something that I kind of brought up when I was on with the Public Works Commission. It's that I'm not sure how clearly our street standards are being communicated to residents in general. I think that there should be a discussion around what the ideal street in our community looks like. So that way we can talk about, like, ideally we have a bike lane. Ideally, we have a curb, a gutter, you know, and so that's kind of the standard that we kind of are really clear about what the standard of what we want our streets to be. And then we go from there. And so like in some cases, you might have the easement's too narrow, therefore that sidewalk and sidewalk can't fit. And so, but at least being clear on what the standard is would allow for people to provide their input. So that way, when we are paying money to restripe a street, we could restripe it to the standard if that's what's agreed upon. And then it's when you have a standard, it also helps eliminate a lot of the back and forth or the some of the dissatisfaction that we've seen happen in the past when we've piloted programs on streets, because people say, well, I didn't get the chance to provide any input. Well, if we're doing something to a standard, the standard is the input, right? And so it's not on a case by case basis. It's something that, and then it gives the community plenty of time to provide feedback. So I would say that, and then you kind of said this to the commission as well, like that might be something that's worth putting on an agenda, having a conversation around, so that way we can facilitate having clear definition of what our ideal intent is. So I just kind of wanted to mention that. And if those are standards that already are available, if those standards are already available, maybe sharing those with the commission would be helpful as far as like, because yeah, if we're going to be doing work on the street anyway, it might make sense to make them as compatible with what we'd like to see in the long term versus just rehashing what was existing. And so the last thing I wanted to talk about was you mentioned the pavement management plan, and that is one of the ones where I hope that there can be some like a robust effort around defining some form of like using looking closely at the criteria that's being used to determine the street prioritization for the work that's getting done. When I remember seeing it on the Public Works Commission side, there's a lot of things that were factored into it as far as like the size of cracks and their depth, when the streets were last paved. What I didn't see in that was, I don't know, I guess what you would call like a utilization of the street. And I brought this up before, but essentially it's when you have streets that aren't part of a grid. They're the only way that a community can get in and out of a neighborhood, which happens quite a lot of the dead end streets in the hills. And if that's not factored into the decision making, I think that it creates a bit of a problem, only because if you are in an area that is a grid, you can go north or south and still get out of your home. So if there's a place to drive around the pothole essentially, right? Whereas if you are forced, if that's the only option, you're stuck dealing with it. And I think that that should factor into some of this decision making. And so I don't know what the best time. I mean, we have the zone set, which is great, and I think that's something that we should be having a conversation around, and something that we should be willing to refine over time as we kind of work through the zones. Because I think what we'll start to see is like there might be some potential pain points as far as which streets are getting picked and why. And so if we have a robust process around it, that we're clear with that it's cyclical in nature, that I think would give people a lot better feelings about what's being done and where their streets or where the streets around them kind of fall into that. So I just kind of wanted to kind of bring those two kind of points back up as far as the standards and as far as like the systematic approach to the prioritization.
Sure. We can take a look at traffic counts on the streets to see which streets are seeing the most use. However, like I mentioned, for our orange zone, for example, all the streets in that zone will be repaved, whether it's a couple cars a day or it's Oak Street. They're gonna get paved
Right.
one way or another with that project, and that's the intention. As we go through zone by zone, we'll be improving all the streets in those zones.
Yeah, I mean, I get that portion of it. And I don't think it's necessarily a traffic count that's going to achieve this, because if, like, for instance, there's I can't remember the name of the street. It's off of Alta Vista. It's a cement street. It's hasn't been done in a super long time. It's got about there's a set. I'm sorry. So when that dead ends and has the trail at the end of the dead end, off of Alta Vista. And so it's a cement street and there's like about a 1 inch gap in the street. And the two halves are kind of, you have there's an elevation change with that gap. That's a cement street, so I know that's gonna be super costly to ever do. But that means that at some point it's gonna have to get done. It can't sit in perpetuity. And like when that street gets done, it's gonna be super challenging. Like, if Alta Vista's if you ever have to take Alta Vista out, the people that live on that street have no way of getting in and out of their homes by vehicle. They'd have to hoof it down a hill, a trail, you know? So, when we're thinking about what we're going to do for a street and how we prioritize a street, like certainly that street should get done. And if you're only using traffic counts, you're never going to be able to account for a street like that because who's going to drive through there? No one ever, right? And so traffic prioritization, but if you're using traffic as the only way of prioritizing that, it's going to systematically fall below in a ranked order. But if you, for instance, are going to say, figure out a way to wait, like by wait, I mean like within the calculation, that people, that's their only pathway in and out of their homes, like they have to go that route, then Alta Vista becomes a little bit more critical, you know, especially like if you're talking about like a fire evacuation route, et cetera, right? And so I think there's a level of this, to me, in my mind, that's really just about like how we allocate resources in a manner that's equitable amongst our residents, but then also like super at it, like baseline functional, you know? And so I'm hoping that we can figure out a way to codify that so that way it makes sense to everyone and, you know, allows for us to meet people's needs, you know?
I'll just, to your point, I was nervous when we moved to the zone approach because the way we used to do it, into the question about why did those streets end up on the 1809, 1810 list. I know I'm being a little facetious, but it was before the zones and it was pavement condition index. It was, and also, just going out and looking to see how difficult or how bad the street was. We would be given a number, and when we'd be given sort of projected cost to repave a street, and then we'd be given pavement condition index. And then what we used to do was try to be equitable and spread the love. And because before there were complaints about, well, why are you only doing streets in this preferred community part of our city and then ignoring all of the others? And so we would try to do a street here and do a street there, and hit the ones that needed them the most, but then also bring in smaller ones to, round up whatever the budget was, right? So then the city decided to go to the zoned approach, which has its pros and cons, or there are efficiencies associated with it. But then what happens is we have the outliers who aren't addressed for years. So it seems like there has to be some, if we do the zone approach, also have some considerations for streets that maybe can't wait. Like you're doing Indiana out of order,
Sure.
right? And
Yeah.
you're doing it for very good reasons.
Well, we know that in the future, when we do the yellow zone, we can't do that entire yellow zone
Right.
at once because people won't be able to get around in the yellow zone.
So I think it's important for
Right.
us to take into consideration these other factors
Outliers,
as we move
yeah.
forward. And the other thing about the zone approach that sort of concerns me is if we're touching in some way, shape, or form virtually every street in the zone, that seems quite costly.
Mhm.
And it would seem like that would be much more expensive than hitting the streets that are in most need. I don't know if I'm being clear.
No,
And
I understand.
You know what I'm saying? And,
Yeah.
and are we going to have the money to do a zoned approach every year? Those are sort of some questions that we're.
It's catch up. Frankly, I think that's really like so expensive is because it's catch up. We're playing catch up, and the zone was like the most effective way to try to play catch up. If we go piecemeal, or we kind of like what I'm calling the way we used to do it, but it didn't allow us the means to stay caught up. And so I think like the part of the zone approach is to get ourselves into a clip that we're after this first round, you know, we're paying our pain. We're taking our pain. So that way, over time, it's simplified. Is that?
That's exactly correct.
Yeah, right. And so, but anyways, yeah.
Yes.
But
Sorry.
do we have the 25 million that's planned for this next?
Yes,
zone.
so we do have the funding for fiscal year 25, 26, and 26, 27, all those projects. After that, the city is gonna have to look at options to figure out where they're gonna get the funding from. But at least for the next 2 fiscal years, we can't afford to continue with this process.
So if you're in those zones, you're in luck.
Yes,
After
exactly.
that.
Exactly.
Um,
And I'm not in those zones for the record.
I'm not sure what color I am. Um, Thank you, Councilmember Ferguson
Thank
and
you.
Michael. Any other questions, comments for the team?
And just for clarification, I think that street that I was talking about was Blair.
That's what I was thinking,
Yeah.
but that's near the,
Yeah, Blair or Oakcrest. It's either Blair or Oakcrest, Blair Avenue or Oakcrest. Yeah, one of those two. Off of Alta Vista. Well, yeah, one's off of Alta Vista and the other is off of, I guess, I can't tell if that's St. Albans or Alta Vista, right where it might be right where it changes. Yeah, okay.
and I would say while we're doing this big picture approach, we're continuing to maintain streets. Like if there are potholes or large cracks, things like that, we have crews go out and
Yeah.
as it's reported, right?
Right,
And take
as we
care of it.
receive reports, you can submit a service request. We have a asphalt truck that goes out there, fixes potholes.
Okay, great.
So please, if you see potholes, submit.
And if we find an obstruction on a certain street with a tree, did I just get my chainsaw out and cut it?
Please
No.
not.
Okay.
No.
We had that presentation last month, right?
Okay, well, if there's nothing further, and you weren't looking for specific direction
We were
or
just
action
providing-
from us, right? This was more just a
No, yeah,
conversation.
we were just providing an update on the projects
Okay,
and what's next
okay,
and
great.
what you can expect.
All right, great. Thank you, Michael. Very, very well done. All right, well, let's move on to item 3, which is an action item, the commission's 2025 work plan. Michael, do
Sure,
you want to
thank
tee it up? Well,
Thank you. Thank you, Philip. So we're bringing this back. We realized we missed that last time. And we revised this to say 25, 26, because when we brought it to you originally in May, it was fiscal years 24, 25, and 25, 26. But this is a suggestion of some of the projects that we're working on and things we think we can bring to you within the next, between now and June.
Michael, would you be able to speak up just a little bit?
I'm sorry, is that?
Yeah, that's better.
My
Thank you.
apologies. So this is a list of the types of projects that we anticipate we can bring in front of the commission between now and June. So going down the list, we'll periodically just have these CIP status reporting presentations. The Mission Street, Slow Street design. We heard the commission and we heard the Chamber of Commerce loud and clear. We funded the design of that project in this fiscal year now. So we're in the process of getting a design firm on board. And as I mentioned, at the 30, 60%, we can bring this item, once or twice for a presentation between now and June. The citywide engineering and traffic survey, we presented that in May as well, but we had some comments, so we're revising that. We'll be able to bring that back for the commission to review. We just did a street improvement plan update and SB1 list presentation. Our West Side Reservoir project, that's over on off of Meridian. We're confident we'll be able to finish the preliminary design report by December, and that can give you an idea of what type of a reservoir that site can support, what construction will look like, and what the path is going forward for us to discuss. Fremont Huntington design, as mentioned, we advertised the request for proposals today. We're anticipating to award the design contract late September, early October. And then once we enter design for that project, again, 30, 60%, we can bring it and bring the commission, show where we're at with that design. Neighborhood traffic management plan, we can bring that this fiscal year to the commission to discuss and review. The citywide facility assessments, we have done a few of them. We've done the library. We're currently working on our parks. And we can bring you what those assessments are, where we see the needs are in our facility for the commission to review and give us some input. Sidewalk improvement program, that will be an interesting one. But like I mentioned, we were putting together this on-call list of contractors. One of them is a concrete on-call list. So we want to figure out what the best way is for us to go around the city and fix our sidewalks. What methodology or standards or strategies we want to take into consideration when we're picking which streets we want to do. And I've worked with these before, and I can give my input as well of what kind of experiences we have. The San Pasqual Wetland Construction Project. This is the one that's joint with Pasadena. Right now, we're in an environmental impact report, but as we have updates with that, Pasadena is the lead agency, but we can provide updates where that project's at and where we anticipate it going, and share some construction drawings. The same applies with the bicycle plan. We're working on bringing that, updating that bicycle plan. We have one, I believe, I forget what year it was prepared. 2011. So we're working on updating that and presenting that to the commission. And then the sewer consent judgment update. So for the sewer consent judgment, next week, we're looking at awarding a contract for it's a maintenance agreement, a contractor to just come in and clean and run a camera through the sewer lines in the city. And they'll identify where we have damages. We'll use that to facilitate repairs with either our on-call sewer repair contractor that we want to bring on board, or we can include it as a larger CIP project if it's not something that can be done with an on-call, with the goal being that as we continue to do this year after year, we can get out of this sewer consent judgment. It's going to require us to be proactive in our sewer maintenance, fixing repairs faster than repairs are occurring, and consistently reporting progress and updates to our consent judgment officer. But we're confident we can bring all of these action items. If we think there's other ones that we want to bring up or ones that we want to change, we're open to having a discussion and receiving direction, and we can update this work plan for the next fiscal year. Sure.
Thank you, Michael. High level, these are the list of projects that we expect to be discussing that staff will be bringing to the commission between now, June 2026. Is that a fair way of looking? Okay. Michael, I had met and reviewed the draft and made some adjustments. And so these seem to be the ones that fit the criteria. There are plenty of other things going on, but these are the ones that staff would be coming to us to update or present, get input, that kind of thing. I just wanted to add that there's one item that's not on here. We didn't specifically discuss it, but you had mentioned it a little bit earlier, Fair Oaks. So whether it's ITS or the other aspects of what we're planning for Fair Oaks.
Sure.
I'm guessing there's going to be some developments that you're going to be sharing with us.
Yeah.
So that might be something you might want to.
Yeah, we can either make that a separate item or it could be part of I guess with that being one of the major projects, we can make that a separate item as we get into maybe a 50 or 60% design, bring that to the commission.
Okay. Great. All right. Anyone else have input on the work plan, additions, deletions?
Just a question, sewer inspection, is that sewer consent judgment for the camera to go in through?
It's part of it. Yeah.
It is part.
That the cleaning and the running a camera through our city sewer system to identify where we have damages so we can put together projects to repair those damages. The idea behind getting out of the sewer consent judgment is we have to show our consent judgment officer that we're maintaining our system, fixing issues with it. We're being consistent with our maintenance and repairs and our reporting, whether that's monthly, quarterly, and annually. And we have to do this for years. Sure.
Commissioner Dunlap.
Sure. Thank you, Chair. I guess my prioritization, I mean, a lot of these are my prioritization, but I would want to make sure that we discuss the ones of these that have the most community impact, are going to get the most community input. You know, like I see citywide facilities assessment. Look, it's great if I know about it. I love that you replaced the fire department door. That's an important thing. Glad you did that. I don't know if we need to have a meeting to kind of talk about that. Like I think we should take advantage of the public forum and where people can come and kind of share things on more of those hot button issues. So to the extent there are some of these that need to drop, I would probably drop the ones that are just kind of run of the mill business that we don't need a ton of public input on. And I concur with Fair Oaks, and I think you also you mean all Fair Oaks projects, right? The interchange, the ITS. So I
Top to
concur with
bottom.
that being on the agenda. Also for the kind of with our, I forget when we went through the CIP. Was that last month or 2 months ago? Where we talked about the slow streets and we were looking at all the projects, and it was kind of late in the game to start adding stuff.
Sure.
And kind of a lesson from that was like, hey, when can we provide input? I think we might need more than one meeting on that, perhaps 2 meetings, like one early on to discuss what's coming up and our ideas for it, and probably one where something comes back, it's a little bit more finalized before it comes
Sure.
to council. My priorities are continue to be like the slow streets and moving that forward. And I come from the MTIC side, so more of the transportation, definitely Fremont, Huntington things. Just because, like I said, I think they have the most community input. Everyone has an opinion on it, and so this is a good forum to get that community input.
Sure.
If
I think the
if
most
it's replacing the fire station door, great. I don't think we need to really talk about it here. Thank you.
Sure. I think the best way to do that would be at the mid-year budget point. We can bring that to council, commission as well to see what our mid-year budget is looking like. And then as we get to the end of the fiscal year, before we finalize anything, go to council, we can present it to the commission as well.
Vice Chair Brunel.
Thank you. Yeah, so echoing Commissioner Dunlap's points on prioritization, and specifically with topics that, we know that the community is really interested in, we should be spending more time on that. I think specifically it would be helpful to have some sort of timeline or look ahead to see when exactly we're going to be, these items are going to be brought to us, so that we can also, be better informed on that. And specifically with the Mission Slow Streets, you said you're getting into advanced design for that, right? So you're bringing on a contractor.
No,
No.
we're bringing on a design firm.
You're
to put
bringing on a
together the
design
plan
firm.
specs and estimates for that project.
Okay.
We had preliminary concepts. Now we're moving into the design.
Okay, so advanced design from conceptual design.
Right. Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
I thought you meant a contractor in the sense of to come out and do the construction.
No.
So we'll bring a consultant on board.
Yeah, so I think like before they get into like 60% design, like can they come to us so we can have a discussion about the project before it's like fully baked? Because I know like in your contractor's scope, like they probably have really specific deliverables and timelines that they have to meet. So then can we see those designs before they're finalized? And like to Commissioner Dunlap's point, like be able to have more of a discussion on input on those.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, and be able to kind of understand when that's happening, like not just getting the agenda 3 days prior, but like having some sort of like timeline so we can see that and just be able to be better informed on that.
Yeah, no, I completely understand. We can either, because some of these stuff we're not going to know exactly when it'll be ready to come to a commission. Maybe the way we can do it is at the end of our Public Works Commission agenda where we have staff comments. We can say, next month we'll be bringing this, or 2 months from now we think we can bring this to a commission, and it'll align with our work plan.
Okay,
Unless we're open to feedback, but
okay. And we also at the last meeting, I think you're referencing in May, we had a discussion on funding opportunities for the Mission Slow Streets project. I think like I understand that project's not fully funded at this point or not unfunded at this point.
right.
So I think that's something that I would like to discuss, funding strategies and opportunities for that project alongside the design going forward. And then just one last thing, on the bike plan scope of work, it's making me think about Councilmember Ferguson's um, your suggestions about street standards. And specifically, I'm wondering, what is the status of that scope of work? Like, is it finalized? Sort of where are we at? And then I wonder if sort of this street standards methodology and criteria for when streets are, slurry sealed, repaved, how they're brought back up to a certain level of standard, when bike lanes should be striped, or when crosswalks should be striped, restriped. And is there a way that we can kind of integrate that into, I'm just thinking of just ideas that we could um, sort of get that conversation going. And this is sort of a planning effort, and that's sort of aligned with sort of a methodologies development sort of activity.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine the bike plan would be a tool that staff would use to see as we're paving these streets, where have we decided that we want a class 2 bike lane or share or whatnot. And so as we're designing these streets to be paved or slurried, staff will know that there's already this approved bicycle plan that identifies sharrows on this street or a class 2 on this street. So it would be used like in that sense. As far as how we're deciding which streets to pave, that would be based off of the pavement condition index, the zone approach. There's a lot of different ways to do it. As of right now, we're moving forward with the zone approach unless there's a different direction that the city wants to go in. And then afterwards, we do pavement condition surveys every 3 or 4 years. So we get updated information every 3-4 years to help us make these decisions.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think I was specifically just echoing the recommendation that we identify street standards and just thinking of a mechanism for us to be able to think about doing that
Okay,
as part of this planning effort.
sure.
Right. Oh, sorry.
No.
Yeah, I think if I'm understanding, I think that's a good point, is that like because I would imagine that we mentioned the commission calendar previously. And so I think that having the work plan is probably going to be the first kind of like that first step into getting to the point where you have a calendar, so you can start to say, well, it's like, it sounds like you have between now and June of 2026 to put a month and year next to these items. So having something in here to account for having those discussions, I think would probably be beneficial. And I think maybe if I'm interpreting your question, it's like, which of these will that fall under, right? If does it need its own item, or can it just fall under one of these things, right? Does that make sense to you?
We can try to put a date behind some of these items on when we anticipate we'll have a product that's ready to be shown, right? Understanding that it can move around.
Yes. Yeah.
But we can put a preliminary date behind it.
So that would take care of the things here. I'm not seeing where in the existing work plan there is the room to discuss something like a street standard.
Sure, and
So-
we're here tonight to approve a work plan.
Yeah.
So if there's something we want to add or change or drop, that's exactly why we're here tonight.
Okay. And so one of the things that I wasn't sure if it's counted for in one of these items was the kind of like how we have the high fire severity zones. And my understanding is that with that, there's going to be some street work needed as far as potentially painting curbs, defining evacuation routes. And so I think that will likely take some type of public works effort. And so I'm not sure where that fits into the work plan.
Mhm.
And then I think, I guess with the tree ordinance update, that's kind of like already in motion, and I'm not sure where the completion of that falls into the work plan.
Sure.
And I guess that commission calendar, which I think is kind of where this can kind of go, because yeah, commission calendars was something that I think like every commission's going to need to do, and it's going to help tremendously as far as kind of helping commissions be able to look ahead and helping the council being able to help facilitate the work that the commissions are doing. So I don't know what the best time for that to happen. But thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Dunlap, you've been patiently.
Sure. And maybe this is a larger question, but I think back to our previous commission, and I just need some clarification. Like we would talk about Measure M multi-year sub-regional program funding, right? And our role was we had certain amount of money, and we were coming up with projects, and we were saying that we need these 5 projects implemented, and we were having heated debates about those projects, and the public was coming. And then those got adopted and they went to the Arroyo Verdugo, and we were kind of creating projects. Are we moving, is the CIP, does it move away from that where the CIP is driving everything and the projects on that list are driving what the city does, and then you're gonna go out and get Measure M MSP funding to fund to augment the CIP? Or is that, or is the function of this commission still to have a creative discussion and kind of create projects? You know what I mean? Like, I guess like how does something, like we have a lot of schools here, right? And we want to enhance safety around the schools. How do we create that project, right? Like, where does that happen on this commission if the CIP is kind of driving everything? Is staff setting the CIP, and or is are we building that into that process? Like, okay, when we talk about the CIP, oh, everyone's going to bring all of their ideas and everything they want done to this table. I want improvements around the high school. I want improvements around Marengo. I want improvements around the library. And then we all talk about that and get it on the list. I guess that's more of a how this commission is going to function. Like, okay, if the CIP is driving it, well, who's creating the CIP? And how does it get created? Is it just pavement? Is that what's creating it? Or
No.
how do we create new projects under this structure? Because when we had those discussions for Measure M MSP, that was a time that we kind of brought all of our experience to the table, and we said, oh, this pedestrian crossing in the city needs work. I can also think now by the library, when you head south on Fairview, there's no red curb at that crosswalk where you have that diagonal parking, and we need a curb extension, and we need some red curb there because it's blocking people. We need to talk about those things, and we need to create projects. But with the CIP kind of driving everything, and kind of staff, I guess, puts together the CIP, I'm guessing, with council input, with their individual meetings and kind of what council's hearing behind the scenes, like who's emailing them. How do we do that?
Sure, I guess that's a larger question.
Right.
CIP is driven by facility needs, by roadway needs, by our, needs to improve our water lines or fix our reservoirs. But definitely, commissions can bring an idea to city, to the city staff and pitch an idea to us, and we discuss that. My intention or my understanding of combining MTech and Public Works Commission to the PWIC was that it's going to be for these larger master planning efforts, bicycle plans, the larger projects, the Fair Oaks, Fremont, to bring those into fruition and discuss those. But,
but who's driving improving safety around the library? Like, we have sight distance issues there. You have vehicles parked blocking. Like, who's driving? You know what I mean? Like, when do we have that discussion? And I think that's something in this kind of current work plan that isn't clear to me, at least.
Right. I would say, so some of that's operational in
Right,
nature, right?
right.
So, yeah, I enjoyed what we did before. But, well, okay, go ahead, Councilman.
Yeah, I think Commissioner Dunlap, that's a really good point. And I'm taking it down as a note, as something to kind of bring up to the mayor and kind of figure out how we're gonna, like, because I completely understand what you're getting at. It's like if people are serving on the commission and people are providing this, they're bringing their subject matter expertise. At what point are they going to be working on the things that kind of inspired them to sit in this desk and give up this time, right? And I think that there needs to be some reconciliation where that gets to happen. At least it gets on an agenda somewhere to be talked about, because it's something that, those are the things that motivate people to do this, right? And so it can't just be, there's this thing that's set in stone that and part of it does need to be that, because we've got the work that needs to get done. But maybe if that's something that's calendared at some point, where we have like towards the end of the fiscal year, or when we're doing a strategic planning, like some type of like strategic planning for the commissions to kind of have a space to define what things are the things that they would like to see added into a work plan, and then from there, once they kind of get determined, and they can make their way into the next year's work plan, right? Or if it's an urgent thing, it jumps, obviously, but
And part of it was triggered, like, we have this pool of funds, what are we gonna do with it?
Right,
And then we
right.
brainstorm, and then the other is, well, there are things we need to do, whether or not there's this pool of funds, and how do we deal with that? So,
Sure. So something
and
else.
that's sort of that's right, reasons we're here, that's the stuff that makes a difference to people on a day in, day out basis, and we need to figure out if we have some kind of a placeholder in our meetings to discuss something like that. I don't know if it's every meeting, every other meeting, and not that it's a 3-hour conversation,
Yes.
but hey, these issues have come up. Maybe it's somebody who came to the last meeting and said, hey, there's this issue around the school, or there's this issue on my street, or the Costin Hawthorne issue at Arroyo Vista, or whatever it is.
Sure.
Having some channel or vehicle to discuss that, I think, is important. So, I mean, I don't see this work plan as being sort of the gospel, as this is it, this is all we're ever going to discuss. But I think this is sort of the high level major capital projects that we want to, that staff is planning to bring to us this fiscal year. And then we could fill in, month to month. Hey, during your commissioner comments, you say, hey, I'd like to talk about this next month, and maybe we just do it that way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I was just like, how do we make things better? Like, how do we create,
we can,
No, there
we
was
have all
a
the,
period where
like,
we come up with ideas and we
creative
implement them, and people would
project,
be,
or,
yeah,
otherwise we're just a pavement management.
right. But that's like this age-old question of what is our macro purpose here, right?
Yeah, I think the idea of maybe quarterly, like a call to projects type of a item to be agendized, where commissioners have ideas, we can all discuss them together and see what kind of projects we have that we're thinking about. If it's something operational, we need a red curb here, can you look at this stop sign or whatnot? That's something that, honestly, we can just receive that as an email. We'll look at that. We'll respond to it. It could even be a service request. Any resident can just put in a service request and say, I think there's this intersection should be looked at, and then we look at that as at an operational level, and we will respond to that person. So things like that, I think we can handle that way, and maybe a quarterly call for projects where we discuss. I think this is
That's a good plan.
something worth looking at, and we can try to incorporate that as a CIP. And to answer your question, that is how we put our CIP list together. We hear our community, we are council members, we have our requirements for our facilities and our infrastructure, our assets, and then commissions.
Great.
Mhm.
I wrote down a couple of things. Councilmember Ferguson said, so, yeah, the tree ordinance, I think we've discussed that already. That's why we took it off. I don't know that it's coming back to us. Is it?
We don't intend to. We presented it we presented it twice to NREC, the second time on Monday, the first time to NREC, to Public Safety Commission, to Public Works Commission, received feedback, went back to the NREC, which is the board that oversees that ordinance, presented what the feedback was that we got, and we're planning on bringing that to council to show what all the commission's feedback is next week.
Great.
And then we'll be moving forward after that.
So it's done. It's done in this forum.
Oh, absolutely.
So that's why it's not on the list. All right, that's good. We gotta take our wins too.
Yeah, that's right.
Right.
If we add Fair Oaks projects, such as a bullet, and then where are we in terms of our capacity to cover all these items between now and next June? Like, if we add street design standards, since that's come up a few times now, is that something that should be part of this work plan? Is this something that we can include here? Is it something that separately, it's just agendized and we start the conversation? I'm just wondering how to,
Sure, maybe
know,
that could be agendized so that staff can get a better idea of what exactly it is that we're trying to create with these street standards. I understand having a bicycle plan, understanding where we're putting bicycles. But we're typically not changing widths of roads. Curb and gutter is always preferred. Some streets we have only curb, and putting in curb and gutter is pretty cost prohibitive. Hundreds of dollars per foot to remove when we're barely paving the roads, to spend hundreds of thousands to put curb and gutter when curb only exists already. That's a decision. Maybe getting agendizing it to get a better idea of what exactly it is that we're trying to create with the road standards, so that as we're paving these roads, we'll know what standard to be following.
Yeah. So maybe it's not a work plan.
It's not a
item,
work
but it's
plan
something
item,
that
yeah.
we agendize as a conversation topic.
Right.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Mhm. And I think there was even conversation about removing some of these, so maybe that's an opportunity for us to add Fair Oaks if there's something that the commission wants to remove that they don't feel is necessarily needed on this work plan list.
So I heard Commissioner Dunlap's comments about the citywide facilities, and, we're both of MTIC origin, so certainly we're very traffic focused, but the commission is Public Works, right?
Sure.
So
Mhm.
it's probably an appropriate thing for us to discuss at some point, right?
Right. I mean, if we can provide valuable feedback and the community's interested, but if you're replacing the roof,
Yeah, that's.
it's
I don't-
great. I love it. I'm glad you're replacing
Not much for us
the
to
roof,
talk
but
about there, yeah.
yeah.
I guess O and M versus capital, right? Is it maybe it's like O and M stuff versus capital stuff? Because if something's operation and maintenance, it's gonna likely need to be done anyway. But if something is like a capital improvement, like let's say we're gonna need to we're gonna tear something down and build a new police station, let's say, right? Like that's gonna be a city facility improvement that you would probably want to have some
Yeah.
community input on.
I agree. And I would say, I agree with the trying to tie months to these various topics. I know, and Commissioner Dunlap can comment, but in the past, when we've had work plans with months associated with them, we probably hit them about half the time, right? So I don't want to set us or staff up for failure. But if there is some general timeline you can provide for these items, within this range, January to March, or that
Sure.
would be helpful. At least we have some.
I mean, to Commissioner Brunel's point, even just a look ahead for a month. So saying in August, we're not gonna, but if we plan on talking about the bike plan, like, let's talk about it now. That way we can spend the month doing it, because I hear what you, like, it is kind of it's a lot of like late night work, like trying to.
It's a lot of information overload, right? And so if we can know what we're discussing. the
Even
next-
just a month
Just
ahead.
1 month ahead, yeah.
Yeah.
That would be very helpful. So then we can be informed, and maybe the public can know, like, oh, hey, maybe I want to show up and make a comment about this item, and then they can plan for that, right? I think that would
And I
be
think Michael
helpful.
had that, good point. You can telegraph what's happening next month during your staff comments.
Right.
So
If
we-
that's acceptable, then, because
Right.
then we'll know, maybe we could put quarters behind these, Q1, Q2.
Sure.
And then as we know for sure, maybe something moves up or something moves back, we can just relay that verbally here tonight. Or,
Okay.
moving forward.
Right, right. Okay, any other thoughts on the work plan? Commissioner Kerwin?
Just one follow-up item on Mission Slow Streets, which I do appreciate you guys moved that funding forward for the design. And I was curious though, back when that was presented just a few months ago with our library meeting, there was two separate projects for the portion up to Orange Grove, and then the portion from Orange Grove to Pasadena Avenue. And now it seems like maybe, is that all one cohesive project, the design that you guys are in the process of getting a designer for? Is it from end to end now, or?
So the Mission Slow Street project, that would be from Brent at Fair Oaks, 1 street past Fair Oaks, to Pasadena Mission Arroyo. And then that intersection itself is a separate project, but they need to shake hands at that intersection. The design of the Mission Slow Street project and the Mission Pasadena Arroyo project need to be aligned. but those are two different design consultants.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right. Well, that's good because yeah, previously it only went to Orange Grove was the presentation, but it sounds like now, because also the funding appears to be the same as what was presented previously, but the scope maybe is now the full Fair Oaks to the Pasadena Avenue
Right.
Arroyo. That
Yeah.
okay. And I agree with the tie-in with that intersection. I think there's some comments that I have made in the past that I want to reiterate about uh, making sure that we do the road diet in front of Orange Grove Park as part of that project. Again, the design that we saw previously, it had the full, if not actually adding lanes right in front of Orange Grove Park. So I do want to just reiterate, it's definitely doable to continue that road diet through in front of Orange Grove Park and then tie in at that Pasadena Avenue, Orange, Arroyo Drive intersection, continuing bike lanes down to that main park facility there, where the prior design that we saw, there were no bike lanes going down through that intersection. So,
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. You know, that's going to be one of the items we're bringing to you guys as we have the 30 or 60% design. You guys will have an opportunity to look at it, point out anything you see that would be an opportunity for us to make improvements that we haven't had, that we don't have on the plans that we present to you at a 30 or 60% design point. So all of
Okay,
these
great.
comments can be addressed at that point.
Thank you.
And as we enter the design, we've heard these comments, so we'll try our best to incorporate them into the design.
And then just to reiterate, the chair's comments about, the Fair Oaks and what was the loop ramp previously. I mean, my understanding is not funding expiring in the very near future and we need to come up with a plan. No?
No, for that project, the city's received $80 million. It's not expiring. It just has to be programmed correctly. That was in lieu of the 710. Pasadena received money, Alhambra received money. It's just a matter of programming it to expend it. We have other funding sources for Fair Oaks that will expire. Or I'm sorry, for Fremont Huntington will expire.
That's the 2027.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Thank you.
All right, if there's nothing further, I think we can close this item and move on to item 4 on the agenda. Changing the start time of this commission.
I believe we needed a motion, Chair, for that item.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Just so we know exactly what we're doing, if we're adding Fair Oaks and we're
Okay. So,
orders and
very good. All right, so for the fiscal year 2025, 2026 work plan, do we have a motion to adopt the list as proposed by staff with any additions? Does
With the
anybody wanna make
addition
that?
of Fair Oaks, and I'll make that motion.
Okay, okay. Well, I don't know if that needs to be on the work plan, but if you'd like it.
I mean, yeah. Some kind of like companion doc. I don't know if that needs to be part of the motion as a addition to this or a separate thing.
Yeah, you just don't want it to get lost that we need that we need a month look ahead. Yeah.
yeah, and we've heard that we'll be able to give you the month look ahead. I think we said verbally is okay. Just, you know, we'll let you know what's coming up in the following month, what we're close to being able to bring to you, and we'll just rewrite this work plan with the addition of Fair Oaks with quarters, estimated quarters of when we plan on bringing it to the commission.
You receive that as a friendly amendment?
I think I will.
Okay.
Thank you.
Second?
All right, we have a motion by Vice Chair Brunel, seconded by Commissioner Kerwin. Would you like to take the vote?
Yeah. Vice Chair Brunel,
Yes.
Commissioner Dunlap,
Yes.
Commissioner Kerwin,
Yes.
Commissioner Hernandez,
Yes.
Chair Abelson.
Yes,
Motion passes.
thank you. And I'd just like to correct, it was the motion was by Commissioner Hernandez with amendment by Vice Chair Brunel. Okay. Now I think we're good with that item. Okay. So we'll move on to, and I guess, Michael, whenever you have an updated, maybe at the next meeting, if you can give us the updated work plan with those changes, that would be great, if you
Sure.
can do that. Thank you. Item 4, changing the commission start time. So it's currently 6:30. There were a few different opinions. There were some commissioners who were asking if we could make it earlier. And then I think there were some others who thought it was maybe should be later. So I thought we'd get this on the agenda and have a conversation amongst us about how we want to handle this. The options are stay the same, make it earlier, make it later. They all have their pros and cons. For those who have a strong desire one way or the other, can you let us know your thoughts? And
As the elder here, I can have it at any time. I would prefer it earlier than later. I think it's important that we keep in mind that staff is here during the entire day and then here in the evening, again, to work with us and with any other commission that's part of them. So the earlier the better, I think. But again, it's the workload of everyone that's still working for a living. Not that I'm not, but 3:30, 4:30, I think I would prefer one of those 2 hours.
okay, all right. Thank you, Commissioner
you.
Hernandez. Vice Chair Brunel.
Yeah, thank you. So I just want to point out that, this is an open body for the public to attend. And if we were to have the meeting earlier, most folks are working until at least 5 p.m. or even later. So to allow better public participation, I would suggest if we can keep it as is, or maybe there's a slight compromise we can reach. But I think, just thinking about public participation for the meeting.
Thank you. Commissioner Kerwin, do you have any thoughts, opinions, one way or the other?
My preference would be to keep it at this time or maybe 6 o'clock at the earliest, but yeah, I agree with Commissioner Brunel.
Thank-
All respect to the staff and the long hours.
Thank you. Commissioner Dunlap.
I guess my question, staff, are you compensated for your time? Are you paid overtime? No, you're not. Okay, do you augment your hours any? No.
No, we're just exempt. We're salary employees.
Oh wow. Oh wow. I'm sorry. Um I think and I've kind of talked with some folks in the public and some regular attendees at our commission, and they work during the day, and so kind of getting home and guys getting their kids fed and getting here takes a little bit of time. And I think what I've heard is like that 6:30 time kind of works for working folks to come to the meetings. I think my feedback from the folks I've talked to have said they could go as earlier as 6. Certainly maybe they can miss the first part of the meeting, or we're usually running 10 minutes late. So, I think I could do 6, but I know personally I work until 5:30. So it's always a pretty rush to get here as is. Thank you.
Councilmember Ferguson, you have any thoughts on this from your perspective?
Honestly, as a parent, me being here at this time is like easier, than it doesn't conflict with my drop off and pickups, It's kind of around the similar time to when the council meetings happen on Wednesday evenings. And hats off to the staff, So I'm perfectly fine with where it is. If it needs to change because of commissioner availability, we'll try to figure something out, But I think having things that start around the same time kind of helps set cadence. And so I think a lot of other commissions meet around this time. So like, let's say if it was, are you planning? Like planning commission, they met on Monday, correct? And yeah, I think so. It's like
I think it's, yeah.
yesterday, right?
Tuesdays, I don't remember what time they start.
but it's like 5, 6 o'clock, you know, some around there. Council meetings typically start at 7. If we don't have closed, that might start, you know, 6, 5:30, depending on if we have a closed session. But the idea is that people get to work full time, and if they still have some fight in them, they can get into these meetings. I think, and this is kind of for council, like commission to think about, was like set an end time. You know, like so we're going to talk about this thing until this time, or we're going to do this much until this time, and if we can't get things in, we'll try to schedule a special session or something. But we're sometimes it's like the amount of discussion that needs to happen is just more than can fit into the session. So whether that means we're gonna end it here and we'll pick it up again later, or we're just gonna, you know, defer things to another time, I would say to consider something like along those lines, and that might help as far as like, you know, if we're starting at 6 and we're going to 10 versus you know, starting at 6 and knowing for sure, or starting at 5 and knowing that for sure that we're going to be done by 8, you know, or 8:30, you know. So so just something that'd be my thoughts.
No, those are, and I want to hear what Michael has to say. I just, to that point, one of the things we spoke about was staff's putting together the agenda and sending a draft to the chair before the meeting to review, because it happened for a while and then it wasn't happening. And I think what that, in addition to making sure we're covering what we'd like to cover, that we're making sure it's not a bloated agenda. We had one a couple of meetings ago, I think, which was Mission Street and the citywide engineering study, and it was a marathon session. It was too much. So I think being cautious about what we agendize, and that was one of the reasons I was trying to be measured about the work plan, is if we put too many things on there, then do we end up with marathon meetings on a regular basis? But personally, I'm with Vice Chair Brunel and the others who are concerned about public participation. And if it's too early, we're sort of freezing them out. And I think, yes, they can submit written comment, but it's not the same. I think it's a better conversation if they're live or even on Zoom. But I thought if there's a way to accommodate, and I think Commissioner Mailing also had requested an earlier time. You know, can we move it a half an hour? Does that help a little bit in terms of how late we go and when we start for some of our members? But I wanted to hear what Michael has to say from the
Sure.
staff perspective.
I mean, for us, really, this item came up because it was brought up by commissioners last time. You know, for us, starting at either 6 or 6:30 doesn't really make a whole lot of a difference. I agree with you, Chair Abelson, about making sure for our agendas, we're not putting too large, like, we wouldn't put Fremont and Fair Oaks on one agenda night, is what I'm trying to get at. We'll try to space that out across the meeting so that we don't have agendas that take us into the 11 or 12 o'clock hour. That would be a good management time. I don't know if we can put stop times on these meetings, unless that might be an interesting question, how we can just stop a meeting if we're in the middle of a discussion.
What typically what happens is you would continue it. So if let's say you set an agenda and you're not going to get through the things, you would either agree to take something off the agenda or to defer it, or you get a continuance on the entire session. So you would end at whatever time, and you say to be continued at this date and this time, and then that provides the notice for the public, and then you can pick up the conversation at that future date and time. So
Sure,
continuance, but you
Well,
know,
whoever's running the meeting can control the comments a bit too.
well,
so
yeah,
that,
well, yeah.
Yeah, so that, I think that would be interesting to look at. I mean, for staff's point of view, starting at 6 or 6:30 doesn't make a whole lot of a difference. I think it's just the next day, staff coming in at 7 a.m. When we're here till a late hour is something to consider.
Vice Chair, did you want to?
No. I was gonna say, yeah, thank you to the staff that are obviously here, long hours. Yeah, just want to recognize that. I didn't realize you're coming in at 7 a.m. every day. That's very early.
So,
I'd like to make a motion that we keep the time the same at 6:30 and try to get out of here by 8:30.
I don't think we need a motion, right? We could just, next
That
item.
could be just a
so it's the
verbal
general
understanding.
understanding that we just want to keep it as is?
Okay,
Yeah,
sure.
okay. Are people interested in a half an hour adjustment or not?
No,
Not meaningful?
no.
No, that's fine.
Okay, so, well, I mean, it's an action item on the agenda. I guess we need a motion of some kind, right? So, motion to keep the commission start time the same. Okay, I just did it. No, you don't need it? So we'll default to the, okay.
Okay.
Okay, great. Okay, terrific. Thank you. All right, so I didn't ask for public comment on item 4, but I'm guessing there isn't any. I just wanted to check. I miss anybody or anything on 4? Okay,
Tucker, are you good with 6:30?
all right, thumbs up. Moving on to item 5. We will be out of here by 8:30 tonight, at least that's my hope. Approval of the minutes of our last meeting, which was the regular meeting on June 11th. Did anyone have any thoughts? There isn't a lot there.
Look, I'm all for streamlining the minutes. I like staff not spending a lot of time writing things that rather than work on projects and minutes. And maybe it's just like we need to be more specific with our emotions, but I think we had a pretty good discussion about the CIP, and a really recommendation of that was that they look at the slow streets, right, and add that to the CIP, and that ended up getting done. They found the funding for that, but there's no like record of that in the minutes. You know what I mean? And so either we should have been like provided clear, put that in a motion that gets recorded here, or
Yeah,
we need to kind of come to a consensus. Oh, this is major enough that we would like to highlight this in the
Yeah.
minutes.
I think we went from one extreme to the other here, because I was a little surprised how bare bones items 2 and 3 were. The tree ordinance review and the capital improvement program, and oh, by the way, the program is misspelled there. In item 3, page 2 of the minutes, the title, there's an O missing. So even if there's not a specific motion or action taken, it seems like there should be some high level summary, a few sentences about what was discussed, or a topic or two in particular. Because this is, to me, I'm gonna be honest, I think this is a worthless set of minutes to me. This says nothing. So,
There's a reason for for that. Like in the case of most of if it's like most Brown acted bodies, when what you have in front of you is like the motion, or that's legally what you're approving. And so the discussion, if the discussion doesn't make its way into an amendment into the motion or the resolution, the documentation that's provided with the item, then it's just kind of like it's there to inform the vote. It's not there to change the substance of what is there. And so like in the case of like when we're talking about this thing, like approving something as amended versus something like versus accepting it as it is on paper, the amendment makes it to the minutes, right? And so the same thing would be like, it's like you're saying, so yeah, if you want part of this discussion to substantively make it into what gets put into the record, then it likely should be either an amendment to what is being proposed, is the proposal, or like, because you're just approving a recommendation, like a staff recommendation. You're not, this isn't providing the detailed directions on what to do. It's providing just the acceptance of what is being proposed, if that makes sense.
Sort of.
Okay.
I mean, to me, more often than not, and tonight it's not an exception, staff comes to us with something to present and get feedback or input. And we'll ask, do you need a motion or is there an action item? And the answer is no. So we're not being asked to amend the tree ordinance, as far as I'm aware. We're being asked to receive a report and then provide our thoughts. But if that approach is new and has never been shared with me, it's very different than what we've done before. So, but that's okay. We just need to know that. So that means that every time we discuss something, if we want it to be in the minutes, there has to be a motion. Is basically what you're saying, right?
Yeah, it depends on what the output, the way that it's agendized in the agenda, but like if it's agendized for a vote, if it's agendized for action or discussion, right? And so I think like a lot of times it's at least the last couple of reports that have come through, it's really about just whether the body accepts this as this document or not, you know, and then it's getting passed on through to council from there. So typically the minutes, the conversations that happen are obviously important, but it's usually to inform the vote, not to alter the substance of the document. Is that?
Oh, I understand what you're
Yeah.
saying.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
One approach that was suggested to me was that this body make a recommendation to the council. And so we could, as a, you know, on our last meeting, there was a very robust discussion about moving that funding forward to the current fiscal year for the Mission Slow Streets. What we could have done would be to say, this body would like to make a recommendation to the council that happen, and then that be documented.
Absolutely.
But we asked, do we need a motion? And it was like,
Even if the
no.
motion isn't required though, but we,
Right,
as a
right.
body can say, we would like to make a recommendation to the council.
Yeah. But then I agree with like Commissioner or Chair Abelson on the tree ordinance. Oh, we're not like shaping the tree ordinance, but you're
but-
sharing it here for input. I think we just want to know that those things are documented and you can someone's referring back to them
Right.
and kind of seeing that we have record of the input provided, because what is a record? Someone's going to go back and watch the meeting on YouTube, right? Like that would be the record.
I guess
If
so.
they
That's
wanted
to say
to
there
see
is a
that, what they
video.
see that.
Well, see, so like, let's say for like, if we were to use that as an example, I would say that if once the tree ordinance came through, if there was some matter that this body felt was missing in an omission, you would say, we want to make a motion that this thing gets added to the ordinance, right? You get a second, you'd vote, and then there would be, in the record, there would be an action from this body, governing body, saying this element of the tree ordinance needs to be revised. And then, so when it comes to when it came through when it came through this commission, and the commission then reviews it and says, you know, we're accepting of this, where we don't see any substantive change that needs to happen. Then when it comes in front of council, the council says the report will say that it passed through the Public Works Commission and it was approved by the commission without any substantive changes. You know, so the discussion that happened here, it exists insofar as like there is a Zoom meeting recording going on of the discussion, but it didn't. The vote is the vote. You know.
Well, then I agree with Commissioner Brunel's or Vice Chair Brunel's comment of, we approved the work plan and we want to know a month in advance what is on the work plan, because that's an important part of the discussion that we want to make sure
That should be
gets
in the
lost.
minutes,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, but it wasn't specifically,
But see,
Yeah,
but like with the work plan that just happened, right? That was you were okay with just the verbal acknowledgement, a verbal communication about how that scheduling looks. It wasn't that the work plan was approved with the amendment as specified, was the inclusion of and I don't remember what it was, so I'd have to check the minutes. But yeah, but you had an amendment to what was included. It was the Fair Oaks being included, and so that will capture in the minutes because that was part of the amendment that went through
Okay.
the vote. So
okay, I understand what you're saying. I don't like it.
yes,
But I understand it. I would say, you look at these minutes,
Yeah.
like, oh, well, they're doing nothing. Right? And
Mm.
if somebody wants to say, well, what happened at the meeting last month? And they don't want to watch a 3-hour video. And they look at this, it's like, well, this is nothing. I mean, it doesn't tell anybody really, well, there was this topic, but
Mhm.
then I don't know. I
Mhm.
mean, I get what you're saying, but I don't perceive minutes that way. But if
Mhm.
that's the city's approach,
Mhm. Mhm.
that's the city's approach. I would certainly hope that staff is listening to what we're saying.
Mhm.
I mean, I think that's our practice has been.
Mhm.
Staff comes to us for input and feedback and takes it into account in connection with what they're working on, because not everything is like approve this or don't approve it.
Right.
It's more something in between. But if we have to, I guess if we have to sort of frame everything in terms of emotion, we can do that.
I
But a
think-
lot of times, tonight it's only what, 5 of us, but there are 8 of us
Yeah.
with different opinions and thoughts and input. And typically what staff has done is take it down, take it back, and incorporate it as they see fit, but not that we're trying every time to make sure there's a motion that captures all of that. It's hard.
I view the minutes as kind of like a legal compliance requirement. And so the city has a legal obligation to create these documents so that way we're in compliance. We can show compliance with the Brown Act, right? And that's kind of my.
I mean, I would somewhat disagree. Looking at the council meeting where they were talking about the bulb outs on Fair Oaks, we discussed that at the commission, and I think the staff presentation said, "Oh, the commission made this recommendation," and I would look back and I was like, "Where are those meeting minutes? Where are those meeting minutes?" And those meeting minutes don't exist; they weren't posted anywhere. But we needed that. You know what I mean? I don't remember ever voting on that item. I don't think we ever voted on, when we had the discussion and Mr. Okitsu was here, we provided a lot of feedback and they took it in, but there was never like a vote of keep this curb extension, don't keep this curb extension, do this. They just kind of took in the feedback. But then what was presented to council was that, oh, the commission like recommended this. And that wasn't true. And we didn't have any kind of the minutes that aren't online from that meeting. And so there wouldn't be any record of the actual feedback provided. So that, you know what I mean? That's where something that where we provided input, staff said yes, and they told the council, oh yeah, the commission recommended this, but we didn't recommend. There was never a vote on that item.
Okay.
There's nothing we
Well,
can point to,
Yep.
other than, oh, watch video minutes, one.
Right. I understand what you're getting at.
We won't resolve it tonight.
Yeah, but it's something we should talk about.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, hot topic tonight.
You thought you're gonna get out here before 8:30.
No. All right, well, does anybody have any edits to does show up here?
There's one minor punctuation where it says Kerwin's, there's a apostrophe missing. Other than that,
Where is that?
it's on the commissioner comments at the end about the 4th line down. Commissioner Dunlap echoes
Oh,
Commissioner
yeah.
Kerwin's comments.
Okay, so I'll move approval reluctantly and regrettably. I'll move approval of the minutes with the addition of the apostrophe and in Kerwin's line 4 of item 6, the addition of the O in program in the title of item 3. Second, any second?
I'll
Yeah,
second it.
okay.
Can we just do an all in
those
favor?
Favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? You're gonna abstain.
You can still vote on it.
Vice Chair Brunel chooses to abstain. The others approve. Yeah, okay. Thank you very much. And thank you, Councilmember Ferguson, for that perspective. I appreciate it. Okay, next up, Councilmember Ferguson, City Council Liaison.
I'm just
Community.
gonna say thank you to staff. I was had my first festival of balloons this past year with the family, and we had a great time. So for any of you folks that I saw that day, you know, it was a good time. And thanks a lot for the staff for putting that together. I think it seemed to go off without a hitch. I saw and so thank you, thank you, and thank you.
Sure. I have two items and I'll keep it brief. And one might be a question for staff. A resident had reached out about the paint and post curb extensions that are on Oak Street. I guess they were told by the city that those were going to be removed. And I know that there was we kind of recommended, as well as council recommended, to kind of come up with a more permanent, not like concrete yet, but some materials that are more aesthetically pleasing for that. And so I just wanted kind of clarification for that resident. Are those getting removed or are they getting improved based on commission and council?
We're
Yeah.
catching up on a lot of things, so we're going to review. I believe council may have approved certain segments of the slow streets.
Right.
So we want to make sure if it's something that council has approved, we can't just remove them. Look at options.
But I recall the direction being that to look at more durable materials.
Correct.
You know, okay.
Yeah.
So that's still happening.
They're still happening.
All right, great. And then the second item I had, and I kind of mentioned it earlier, around the library, Fairview, I know Fairview and Oxley, we have angled parking there. And with the new daylighting law, it restricts people from parking 20 feet within a crosswalk. And those are really, you have some, I know we're gonna have to remove parking around the library, but it's a crazy sight distance issue when you have a vehicle parked there right at that intersection and then a child is crossing the street there. So if we could just look at the red curb around
I
there.
think you might be referring to SB 413.
Yes.
What intersection are you?
Fair Oaks and Oxley. So you're heading southbound.
Fairview, right?
Yeah, Fairview, not Fair Oaks. Sorry, Fairview and Oxley.
Turning right?
Yeah,
Or
you're
just
heading southbound on the east side of the library. You have angled parking there on the library side, and there's very little red curb, and so the angled parking sticks out pretty far. If you have a large vehicle and someone crossing there, that crosswalk, it makes it really difficult to see them stepping out, you know, when driving through there.
Sure. Operationally, we'll take a look at that, see if there's the opportunity to paint the red curb the required distance. On the opposite side at the northeast corner of Fairview and Oxley, we're going to be removing the curb ramp and reinstalling it. It'll include a slight bulb out there. If you notice, as you continue to go south through past Oxley,
Mm-hmm.
the street is actually staggered a little bit.
Mhm.
So the idea of the design is going to be that the bulb out aligns with the street ahead of it. It'll shorten
Okay.
that crosswalk distance a little bit.
Yeah,
Um,
and I say
so
that from
there are improvements.
I was driving through that intersection and there's a large vehicle stop there, and then like a kid walked out. I was like,
Sure.
and it's just because that vehicle is parked so close to the crosswalk.
Sure. Thank you.
Okay. Is that an always stop there?
It's an always stop, but still, if they're not, you know, it's not a marked crosswalk. I guess it would be an unmarked crosswalk. So if they're crossing behind the stop bar,
Yeah.
you're,
Oh, no,
you know,
I couldn't
yeah.
remember. Where are you talking about a bulb out addition?
The
Which-
northeast corner of Fairview and Oxley.
Didn't they just replace that curb ramp there?
They did. They didn't build it per the standard plans, so they're gonna have to remove it and rebuild it. We're not paying them for building substandard infrastructure, if that was the shocked look. So if
Yeah.
they built something that's substandard, then they're gonna have to remove it and rebuild it. Yeah.
Okay.
So just the northeast
Yeah,
corner
yeah,
is what
just,
you're talking
just the
about.
northeast corner.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I'm talking about the northwest.
Yes,
That's what I
right.
was thinking.
That's the side that has the angled parking.
Good evening. Already past 8:30, but bear with me because actually I feel for you, Commissioner Dunlap, as a traffic engineer myself, and you don't see a lot of traffic items in here. But I just want to make sure that we are doing a lot of things. We're working on so many issues. AB 413, for example, the new red curbing. I know if you've been by the elementary school lately, if you've seen the new fresh painting that we put all over was it Arroyo Vista Elementary School. Part of the traffic issues that we deal when we're dealing with the curb painting, for example, or upgrading signs or what have you, it will not probably come in these reports here because, again, it's not a capital project. It's a more of a maintenance issue and also applying the latest uh, rules and regulations that we get either from the state or even our city rules. So one thing, if you ask, like, sometimes how do we know or how do we get informed? Obviously, we get a lot of complaints from the public for any traffic-related issues. And I want to really here to recommend that if any commissioner here have an issue, just like this one, Commissioner Donald, the library, feel free to email it for us, and we'll do something about it. I'll go out usually and really assess the situation, see what we can do about it. And maybe in the future, in these meetings, just a tiny little paragraph of the big updates that we've done. Like, again, for example, probably it's not on the agenda or you've seen it. Right now, we're working with Arroyo Vista Elementary School. In fact, what you probably haven't heard is next Monday, we're going to have a big meeting between school officials, the school district, the police chief, the mayor, and us here, and the city manager, just to go over the school circulations issues around in our city. We're trying to get as much done before the new school year starts. And again, I have met with the principal of the elementary school, and I went over there. We walked through the premises of school, and I'm coming up with a new circulation plan that helps hopefully improve traffic around the school. And once we finish with that, we're moving to the next school and next school. So hopefully, at least before the beginning of the school years, we may not have all the material or the paint or even our staff. We don't have enough people to go paint, but we'll be able to come up with a tailor-made, like a school circulation plan for each school. And we'll be working on it, even if we have to do it while the school is in session, mainly, again, painting, red curb painting, what have you. A lot of other issues, for example, Commissioner, we're also doing studies like the traffic signal warrant study at Monterey and Garfield. Actually, again, that's not, you probably haven't heard of it, but just 2 days ago, I got the report back from the consultant, and I'm in the process of reviewing. I'm not going to reveal the outcome because I really want to make sure they covered everything. It's done properly according to the MUTCD, and perhaps in the next meeting, I can bring an update. And like I said, maybe a small paragraph of updates, things we're working on. Bicycle master plan, I'm already actually requested a couple of proposals also from consultants to do the new bicycle master plan. Street classification, Councilor, that's in the general plan. It's very defined. They defined the classification and the standards. However, I guess the city's master plan, I haven't seen it, but it's quite really old. Maybe that's a future item that we can do, is to update the city master plan, but that's the land development and planning departments that usually take care of the general plan. But when we get to the street element in the general plan, that's where we have all the standards and requirements for each street. It also defines where bicycles should go or not, bicycle lanes, I mean, or bicycle delineation. So what I'm saying, really, there's a lot of things that we're doing, and I'll be glad
Oh,
again
yeah,
to-
I think we all agree.
But I mean, yeah, if that's
Yeah,
something
yeah,
we bring in
I think
a new paragraph, small one, updates for the month.
Yeah, the oak thing was someone asked me literally that today, and so that's wanted to kind of use that, and if that was a change in direction, have a discussion. with
Yeah,
Mr.
and we want to be
about that.
proactive with you. Again, really, I'm sure you have our
Great.
emails. Just mail us what you hear from constituents or what you see yourself as a concern.
That's
Thank you,
great.
Bob.
Thank you, Bassam. And I like that idea of a quick summary update, and it can be presented, sorry, during staff comments. That would be really helpful. I think the public would like to. Right, apparently. No, it's great because and I'm sorry, I'm speaking out of turn, but the- maybe it's just human nature. When I don't hear about something, my default assumption is nothing's happening, right? So you're sharing this with us is really heartening. I'm like, it makes me feel like, oh, great, things are moving forward. It is. So it's much appreciated. So yeah, I think it's a great plan. Sorry, Commissioner Kerwin, any comments?
I guess I would just reiterate, so it makes it in the minutes, the desire to review any opportunities for striping, bike lanes when the slurry seal is going in here. So I know that's coming up right around the corner for the current year, and then look at it for the next cycle.
Thank you. Vice Chair Brunel.
No comments. Just echoing Commissioner Kerwin's point just now again, so maybe it'll make it in the minutes. But yeah, thank you to staff.
Thank you. Commissioner Hernandez.
If we could get the potholes repaired between the railroad tracks and the York Avenue Bridge, that would be wonderful. There's a tree obstruction going north towards on Pasadena Avenue coming up to Mission. Can't see the stop sign. And thank you, staff. I didn't have to walk down the parade route like I did for 30 years. They actually had a car for me. So I thank you for that. All done.
I guess you know the right people to walk. Thank you. Very quickly, thank you to staff today and always for all that you do for us. Another accident on Orange Grove at Columbia. So that's a very challenging corridor, Orange Grove, Columbia to the freeway. I know we have a Measure M project that's designed to address it. But I just want to make sure staff is aware that every other week there's an accident, and it's sometimes more often. And a lot of it's at where the two lanes merge into one, but it's at other places too. And I just want to make sure we stay aware of it. And Bassam, I know you're approaching, but oh, great. Thank you. Okay. Okay. I'm happy that we're moving forward. I think that's great. Thank you. Yeah. Did you have a?
I was just gonna say, if you're doing that portion, I don't know if you're just going to the to the 110, but if you can continue the very wide street going down to Orange Grove Park, that's plenty of opportunity for bike lanes there. And then if you continue past Orange Grove, that's very wide intersection there. There's a great opportunity to make some improvements.
Turn left on Monterey Road.
Was that? Yeah,
So
that's just striping. All I'm talking about is striping.
Make a right on Meridian.
I will too, since this is not on the agenda, but to Commissioner Kerwin's comment, I shared with Michael that south of the 110, Orange Grove is embarrassingly wide. And all there is a double yellow center line down the middle. There's nothing else. And it would be great. And maybe it's part of what you're working on now. Maybe it's something that can be done sooner. It'd be great to have a two-way turn lane all the way down Orange Grove from the Parkway to Mission, to narrow the street. I think that's the segment you're talking about, Orange Grove, without the freeway. Very, very wide. It'd
Yeah.
be great to sort of manage speed and help people turn in and out of driveways too. And maybe an
Exactly.
edge line.
And again, part of what I have in mind to share with the consultant and what I want to see from them actually is, again, assessments of existing roadway conditions, looking into ways speed management is a big thing that we need to talk about them. If speed management means sometimes, again, speed calming measures that can get involved. You mentioned the center line, that is just a double yellow line, that could be, if not narrowing the street, maybe we can put a median. There's so many ways you can look at these
Sure.
things, but that will be the consultant, hopefully, when they come up with all these
Okay.
recommendations to improve the.
And when we're looking at things, it'd be great to look at alternatives that are maybe shorter term and easier to implement and cheaper.
I usually ask for temporary quick fixes plus permanent.
Beautiful. We love quick. We love quick. Missing striping on a number of different streets. Staff's aware of it. Thank you, Michael, for working on lining somebody up so that we can get that done sooner rather than later. Last thing is a question. If we could get a minute or less update on the pocket parks. That's of interest to a lot of people. That's why I brought it up.
Sure, thank you. The pocket parks have been in construction since March. They've completed the grading operations. They've installed the storm capture units. They've installed conduits for electrical lines and irrigation lines and stormwater lines. I think this week they had delivered the play equipment, decorative pieces that are going to go in. We've had electrical poles installed. We're anticipating construction to be done end of August, early September.
Great.
Feel free to drive by, take a look inside. Don't go inside. It's a construction zone, but drive by and take a look at it. You'll see.
Well, that's great news.
mhm.
It's been a long time in
Sure.
work, so that's great. Thank you. All
Mhm.
right, that's all I have. So I think we've reached the end of the agenda. It's not 8:30, but it's not too bad. Philip, did you?
Yeah, if it's staff liaison.
Please.
We just want to make an announcement that the next PWIC meeting, I believe there's a finance or some other commission meeting, but either way, PWIC will have to be moved to the library community room. So look out for that notification via the normal communication channels that we use with commissioners. But just a heads up there.
Thank you.
Yeah, and
Any other staff liaison comments? No, we've heard a lot.
All the staff comments I was going to make, we've addressed throughout the evening. So pocket park update, we released the request for proposal for Fremont Huntington. We talked about slurry tonight. We talked about the $7.5 million project we awarded. Next week, you'll see sewer maintenance and cleaning line construction contract being awarded. And
Okay. So to Vice Chair Brunel's comment earlier, do you know what we're going to be seeing next month? No pressure.
I'll have to talk with staff to see
Okay.
exactly what's going to be completed.
I know this is a new thing, so
Yeah.
but I thought I'd just.
I don't want to make any promises right now,
Okay.
but we'll email you as well.
Okay.
We'll let you know what's coming
Great.
next month. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to Michael, Sam, Anna, everyone. All right, with that, I think we can call this meeting adjourned. All right. Thanks, everyone. Thank you. Before 9.